The average person spends 8 hours a day in bed. A person recovering from surgery, living with a chronic condition, or caring for an aging parent at home may spend 16. And the bed they sleep in was designed for a healthy adult to sleep in, not for a person who needs the head raised to breathe, the knees bent to relieve pressure, or the whole surface lowered so a caregiver can reach without destroying their back. That is the moment a family starts looking at home hospital beds, and it almost always starts in the wrong place. People search online, see a fully electric bed for $1,100 next to a semi-electric bed for $700, and either buy the cheap one because it looks like the same machine, or assume the whole category requires a hospital and a nurse. Both reactions are wrong. A home hospital bed is not furniture. It is the machine that positions a person for 8 to 16 hours a day, that prevents the pressure sores that put bedridden patients in hospitals, and that lowers low enough for a fall risk to get in and out without a lift. Here is what nobody says out loud about home hospital beds. The three components that determine whether a bed works or fails are the frame motor, the sleep surface, and the deck height range. The frame motor is the actuator that raises and lowers the head and the foot sections, and the difference between a good motor and a cheap one is cycle count. A quality actuator is rated for tens of thousands of cycles, because a bed used 5 times a day for 5 years runs 9,000 cycles. A cheap actuator is rated for a number nobody publishes, and it fails at year 2, and when the head motor fails with the head raised, the patient sleeps sitting up until a replacement arrives. The sleep surface is the mattress, and on a hospital bed it is not furniture either. A standard mattress on an articulated frame does not bend at the hinge points, and a mattress that does not bend with the deck creates pressure points exactly where the patient cannot shift. The proper surface is a foam hospital mattress with hinge zones, or an alternating pressure mattress for patients at risk of sores. The deck height range is the difference between the highest and lowest positions, and the low end is the safety feature. A bed that lowers to 7 inches lets a fall risk exit closer to the floor, and a bed that stops at 12 inches is a bed a patient rolls out of onto tile. Here are 10 hospital bed brands worth buying in 2026, and 3 that everyone gets completely wrong. Number 10. Drive Medical. Start with the medical equipment company approach. Drive is the largest home medical equipment manufacturer in the world, and its full electric ultralight bed is the entry point that families actually buy. The bed is fully electric, which means the head, the foot, and the height all run from a single hand control, and the frame is steel with a weight capacity of 450 pounds on the heavy-duty model. The deck lowers to under 8 inches, which is the number that matters for a fall risk. The tell is the hand control, a single control that runs every function, with a lockout so a confused patient cannot lower their own head at 3 in the morning, is the detail that separates a home care bed from a frame with a motor bolted on. Drive beds run $1,100 to $1,500, and every replacement part, from actuators to casters, is stocked through the largest dealer network in the country. Number 9. Invacare. Invacare is the American manufacturer that has built medical equipment since 1885, and its home care bed line is the industry reference. The Invacare bed uses a channel frame construction with an integrated head and footboard that accepts the company's own rails, trapezes, and accessories, which means the bed is a system, not a frame. The motor system is a 2-motor design where the head and foot sections share a single actuator assembly, which halves the number of components that can fail, and the deck height range is wider than any competitor at the price. The tell is the accessory ecosystem. A bed that accepts standard rails, over bed tables, and trapeze bars without adapters is a bed that adapts as the patient's condition changes, and the adaptation is what keeps the patient at home instead of in a facility. Number 8. Graham Field. Graham Field is the manufacturer behind the brands clinics actually order, and its Lumex line is the value tier that does not cut the components that matter. The Lumex EX Plus is a fully electric bed with a steel frame, a 450-pound capacity, and a motor assembly that unplugs from the frame without tools, which is the feature that makes home service possible. A motor that detaches is a motor that can be replaced by a caregiver in 10 minutes, and a motor that is integrated is a motor that requires a technician visit and a service call fee. The tell is the connector. A bed with modular, tool-free motor connections was designed by a company that expected the motor to be serviced, and that expectation is the difference between a 10-year bed and a 3-year bed. Number 7. Medicure. Medicure is the direct-to-consumer brand that built its reputation on the low bed. The Medicure ultra-low bed lowers to under 5 inches from the floor, which is lower than any traditional hospital bed, and the low position is the answer for the patient who will not stay in bed and should not fall from it. A bed at 5 inches turns a fall from a fracture event into an inconvenience, and for a dementia patient who climbs rails instead of waiting for help, the ultra-low bed plus a floor mat is the strategy that keeps them at home. The tell is the low position. A manufacturer that engineered a frame to sit 5 inches off the floor with full electric articulation is a manufacturer that understood the actual failure mode of home care, which is not the bed, it is the floor. Number 6. TransferMaster. TransferMaster is the American manufacturer that builds the beds people actually want to sleep in, and its companion series looks like a residential bed, headboard and all, while functioning as a full hospital bed underneath. The frames are built to order in Iowa, the weight capacities run to bariatric, and the positioning includes Trendelenburg, zero gravity, and chair position, which is the position that brings the patient upright for meals and conversation without a transfer. The tell is the upholstery. A hospital bed with a wood headboard and an upholstered foundation is a bed that does not announce itself as medical equipment, and the bed that does not announce itself is the bed that gets placed in a real bedroom instead of a converted den, which is the difference between a patient who feels at home and a patient who feels warehoused. Number 5. Jorns. Jorns is the manufacturer that builds beds for facilities, and its Hallelujah bed is the one that survives nursing home abuse, which is the toughest test in the industry. A bed that runs 24 hours a day, gets cleaned with industrial chemicals, and is moved room to room by staff who do not own it, is a bed whose components were overbuilt out of necessity. The Jorns frame is steel throughout, the scale is integrated, and the side rails are certified for entrapment prevention, which is the standard that residential brands do not even test against. The tell is the facility order. When a nursing home buys a bed by the hundreds, the purchase is a reliability decision, because a facility cannot afford a fleet that fails, and the brand the facilities order is the brand that already survived the audit. Number 4. Span America. Span America is the company that thinks of the bed as a pressure management system first, and its beds pair with the company's own therapeutic surfaces, which is the pairing that prevents the complication that kills. Pressure injuries are the failure mode of long-term bed rest, and a bed that positions perfectly over a surface that does not manage pressure is a bed that repositions the patient onto a sore. Span America builds the frame, the surface, and the pump as one system, and the system warranty covers all of it. The tell is the surface integration. When the bed manufacturer also builds the mattress, the hinge zones align, the mattress follows the deck, and the pressure points that form at the hip and the heel are managed by design instead of by luck. Number 3. Alerta. Alerta is the clinical brand that built its reputation on the alternating pressure systems used in wound care, and its bed line brings the same logic to the frame. The Alerta bed ships with an alternating pressure mattress standard, not as an upgrade, because the company considers the surface inseparable from the bed. The pump is quiet enough for a bedroom, the cycle time is adjustable for comfort versus therapy, and the frame is fully electric with a low deck position. The tell is what ships in the box. A company that includes the therapeutic surface with the frame is a company that understood that the bed is half the product and the mattress is the other half, and most families buy one half and discover the other half in a wound clinic. Number 2. CostCare. CostCare is the value engineering brand that builds hospital beds that compete with the majors on components instead of price alone. The CostCare low bed is fully electric, lowers to 7 inches, and uses a motor system with a published cycle rating, which is a number almost no competitor publishes because the number is low. The frame is steel, the hand control has a lockout, and the bed accepts standard rails and accessories. The tell is the published cycle rating. When a manufacturer puts the motorcycle count in the specification sheet, the manufacturer is confident in the number, and the confidence is the warranty you actually receive, because the cycle count is the life of the bed, and the company that tells you the life of the bed is the company that engineered for it. Number 1. Invacare CS7. The single best home hospital bed you can buy in 2026 for most families is the Invacare CS7, and it is the bed that combines every lesson in this list. The CS7 is fully electric with the widest height range in the industry, from 7 inches to 30, which covers the fall risk exit and the caregiver working height in one frame. The sleep surface is a proper hinge-zoned hospital mattress. The frame accepts the entire Invacare accessory ecosystem. The motors are modular and tool-free to replace, and the weight capacity runs to bariatric. Invacare builds the bed in the United States, stocks every part, and the dealer network that services it is the largest in the country, which means the 10-year bed is actually serviceable for 10 years. When a family needs one machine that lowers for the fall risk, raises for the caregiver, articulates for the patient, and still answers the phone in year 8, The CS7 is the safest choice, and it costs less than 3 months in a facility. Those are the 10 worth your money. Now the 3 that everyone gets completely wrong, because a hospital bed is judged by its motorcycle count far more than its price tag. First, the manual crank bed for the guest room scenario. Everyone sees a $300 manual bed and assumes it is fine for occasional use, and the reasoning is the trap. A manual bed with cranks is a bed that requires an able-bodied person to adjust, which means the patient who needs the adjustment at 2 in the morning waits for the morning, and the positioning that prevents pressure sores is skipped whenever no one is there to crank. The savings of $800 buys a bed that only works when someone else is awake, and the patient who cannot reposition themselves is the exact patient the sores are waiting for. The tell is who turns the crank. If the answer is not the patient, the bed is not a care tool. It is a promise that someone else will always be there. Second, the full electric marketplace bed under $800. Everyone sees a fully electric bed online for $799 with free shipping and assumes the category has gotten cheaper. Here is what you are actually buying. Unbranded actuators with no published cycle rating, a hand control wired to a control board with no replacement stock in the country, and a frame whose welds are rated for a specification sheet that arrived in the same container. When the motor fails at month 18, and it will, the bed becomes a manual bed with no cranks, which is a flat bed, which is the furniture the family replaced. The motor is the product. Spending the least on the component that positions the patient is exactly backwards. Third, the one everyone writes off. The regular bed with a wedge pillow and a mattress topper. Yes, the ordinary bed that everyone dismisses because it is not medical equipment. Here is what people miss. Not every person who needs positioning needs a hospital bed, and the patient who needs the head up at night, the knees supported, and nothing else is served by a $30 wedge and an $80 topper, which is the entire positioning benefit of an articulated bed for a patient who can still reposition themselves. The hospital bed exists for the patient who cannot move. For the patient who can, the wedge delivers the same sleep angle, the same reflux relief, and the same leg elevation in the bed they already own, with no motor to fail, no rail to entrap, and no hand control to lose. The tell is that every discharge planner asks one question before ordering a bed. Can the patient reposition themselves? When the answer is yes, the answer is not a bed. It is a wedge. And the oldest tool in the room is the one that never fails. Judge the motor, not the mattress cover. Buy the brand that publishes the cycle rating and stocks the actuators. And when a patient spends 16 hours a day in a machine, never buy the bed whose warranty is shorter than the recovery it was purchased for.